Hello everyone, welcome to the Hope Collective, where I do pick a card readings to bring through messages from spirit guides, from the collective's higher selves, and use my attunement to multidimensional energies to be able to receive and transmit those messages. And I use tarot and oracle cards to help me focus and receive those messages. So today I'm recording Group 3, Pile 3 of the Goddess Messages Pick a Card that I have been doing for the last couple of videos. And the significator cards for the piles come from this deck here, the Ostara Tarot. So if you are drawn to the Emperor card, you can find the link to the Pile 1 video down in the description box. Pile 2 is signified by the Three of Swords. So if you're drawn to Pile 2, you can also find the link for that group down in the description box. And today, in a moment here, we're going to be transitioning into the video for Pile 3, which is signified by the King of Wands in reverse. So here's what the card looks like upright. So once you are clear on which pile or piles you are drawn to, feel free to navigate to that video or to all the videos that you are drawn to, and I will see you at your group. And if you're sticking around for group 3, welcome to your video. I'm going to shuffle the Ostara Tarot to bring through more messages from this deck first. And as I mentioned in the intro for group 1, one of my spirit guides, one of the goddesses that I work with, came through to me last week guiding me to do this reading themed on goddess messages. So let's see what messages the goddesses and goddess spirit guides, goddess energy have for this group today. Oh, this is fascinating because we have the King in reverse and we have a Queen in reverse. Look at that. I believe this is the Queen of Cups, yes. It took me a second to find in this image the cup that this queen is holding. I was like, I can see this is water, so it's definitely cups, but where is her cup? Where is her chalice? Oh, we have the King of Wands in reverse and the Queen of Cups in reverse. So this is really interesting because we have masculine and feminine, and we have fire and water from the wands and the cup elements. But I'm being drawn to pull more cards from this deck before I get into reading the energies before us. Both of these cards, Spirit? Okay. So these two popped out. So we have more cards in reverse. This is fascinating. So just to show you what they look like upright, we have the Five of Wands. And we just started the year of the snake, so that's really interesting. This the serpent on this card, or serpents. You know what's fascinating me about this card right now is how you can't really tell if this is one serpent with two heads or two serpents, potentially even more, whose heads and tails we also can't see. But that's the Five of Wands in reverse, and we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. This is so fascinating having this wand and cup theme. And the Ace of Cups is often like an offering or a new beginning that is very emotionally fulfilling, but this card, even upright, has this like reckless partying atmosphere to it, this spillage, this almost like waste of emotional energy, or of waste of what, Spirit? What are you trying to convey? This waste of nourishment or sustenance or nutrients almost? Because it almost looks like nectar in that cup, like honey or something very nourishing. Milk and honey, I'm hearing. And we have these mice people, or people with mice masks, who, regardless of whether that's a mask over their eyes or those are really their eyes, the eyes are closed either way. So there's this like unseeing, this blind recklessness, this like blindly diving in, choosing to close your eyes. And how's that saying go? Like, hold your nose and close your eyes. This choosing to dive into something very recklessly and with abandon. This carelessness to this card. Very interesting. I'm being drawn to check out what the guidebook for this deck says about the Ace of Cups in reverse first, before we move on to other cards and bringing other energies through. So let's see what we got here. Cups. There we go. The keywords for the Ace of Cups on this deck are companionship, love, joy, and positive energy. And the reversed description says that drawing the Ace of Cups reversed suggests that you may have been holding in feelings of isolation and darker emotions, but now is the time to release them. Allow yourself to look after your emotional well-being. I see. So there's this guidance here to, rather than continuing to ignore the emotions that are causing impulses and diving into impulsive, reckless behavior, turn towards the emotions and choose consciously, choose a release valve that works better for you, that doesn't leave you feeling, hungover literally or metaphorically the next day. Choose a release valve that actually is genuinely cathartic and like pulling up something toxic by the root, rather than trying to mow it but continuing to let it grow back over and over and over again. Yes, that feeling of pulling something up by the root is a very strong feeling here. Okay. I'm being drawn to read the description for the Five of Wands in reverse next. The keywords for the Five of Wands are disagreement, competition, tension, and conflict. And the reversed meaning says you may be you may be avoiding dealing with conflict. You are uneasy with tension between people and within yourself, so you ignore it and hope it goes away. You may find that some of your deeper desires and concerns are getting repressed for the sake of maintaining the peace. Sometimes we need to embrace conflict as a necessary step on the road to a deeper fulfillment and understanding. This is so interesting. So definitely is clarification for this group about what it is that you've been repressing your feelings about. There's a relationship in your life where you've been it's affecting my clear speaking apparently. There's relationship or relationships in your life where your true feelings, you've been in a holding pattern. That's the energy that's coming through, is this holding pattern. Like I said before, with mowing the grass over and over again, and ignoring that there's this toxic weed that you actually want to uproot that's poisoning the garden. Just mowing it down over and over again instead of getting out the trowel and pulling it up by the root. So the guidance from goddesses that's coming through here is what you have yet to sort of give in or surrender enough to notice is that it's actually less effort to take the trowel out and uproot the thing one time than it is to mow over and over and over again. And that's not even getting to how much energy you will free up when you stop having to devote a portion of your energy to suppressing a feeling or a tension or a conflict or an emotion. The amount of energy that gets eaten up and devoured by that is such a waste. This Ace of Cups in particular from this deck is showing. With the fire from the Five of Wands and the King of Wands in reverse, it's also a waste kind of. Help me articulate this, Spirit. Spirit was showing me the waste of burning down something that you are perfectly capable of saving, essentially. And that doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is what you should be saving. It's that you should be saving yourself and your metaphorical or literal home from being burned down by a fire that you're ignoring when you're capable of putting it out. And so for a lot of you, this is a fire within yourself of emotions that you are suppressing to keep the peace externally. Other people haven't realized that you have this anger or tension or conflict or other emotion that you're repressing, this unmet need, regardless of whether there's anger about it or not. Whenever there is an unmet need and it is repressed rather than expressed, anger is a very natural consequence and reaction to that. So a lot of you folks in this pile may simply not have actually recognized or felt the anger yet, but it will come naturally as a part of the unfolding of what has been folded up and compressed inside. And it's not to be feared. The anger isn't going to burn everything down. What could potentially create destruction is allowing the need to continue unmet, because it gets expressed in reckless behavior. It gets expressed in bitterness and resentment within the relationship where the unmet need is going unexpressed, or relationships. It gets expressed as you being drained by relationships that you would rather leave, or rather end, or rather change into a different form in some way, but you're not expressing that need to change the relationship to the other people in it, and so it's not happening. Every situation is very unique in terms of whether the relationship can be tailored, or whether it's best for it to be cut off, and that's something that you're being called to look into for yourself. But there's a very clear message with that image of a fire burning within this group that I'm getting so strongly, that is actually causing health problems for this group to have this need and these feelings go unexpressed and unmet. And you may not be conscious of those health problems yet. They may not have expressed into you getting sick enough to have to miss work, or that sort of thing. But if you were drawn to this pile and it's resonating for you, you are already starting to feel ragged around the edges and run down and worn down and drained by this. And it's time to make the changes that you're being called to make. And that, I'm being told, is going to be different for each of you. So you're going to have to spend just a little bit of quality of time with yourself. I'm getting the message from the goddesses that it's not going to take you a lot of time to figure out what's needed for you once you just kind of have a conversation with yourself. It's not going to take a long conversation with yourself to reveal an understanding of what is best for you in this situation. Is it best to quietly walk away? Is it best to have a conversation with the other person about how you could change, or other people, how you could change the family dynamic, the workplace dynamic, the way your friendship is being conducted or your partnership is being conducted, so that it will actually be mutually beneficial and fulfilling. We have the King of Wands and the Queen of Cups here. So that does suggest that for many of you in this pile, it is a partnership or an opposite gender, quote unquote, relationship where this is happening. For some of you, this is with your parents, because you have the King and Queen both present here. And then you have the Five of Wands in between the King and Queen, and the other individual here with the Ace of Cups. So it's like your potential over in the Ace of Cups card being opposed, your fulfillment, your potential, your new beginning being opposed by the dynamic going on with the parental figures. That's the case for some of you. For other of you, it's a Five of Wands conflict being suppressed within a romantic relationship, or within a friendship with a couple, or within a friendship between you. It doesn't have to be an opposite gender person, but that is the dynamic for some of you. For others where that's not resonating, or even for those of you for whom that is resonating, with the King of Wands and the Queen of Cups reversed, repressing the fire and the expression of that fire that the King of Wands is a master at, and repressing the directness and bluntness of the masculine energy in dealing with and addressing problems and conflicts and problem solving. Repressing all of that King of Wands energy is directly causing the Queen of Cups to not be an energy that is able to manifest in your life. The Queen of Cups being deep emotional fulfillment, receiving emotional nourishment and sustenance and support, and being just completely fulfilled in love and in relationship and in emotional sustenance. So regardless of whether this situation that you're in fits the parental dynamic, the romantic relationship dynamic, the gender dynamic, that dynamic is at play here, where the ability to receive fulfillment and receive the sustenance that you need, the needs that are not being met, is being curtailed by the suppression of the fire, the true wants, the true desires, the true needs. And there's a fear in a lot of folks in this group, I can feel, of, but if I express my needs, it's gonna either actually be in the form of lashing out, or even if it's not, it's gonna be perceived by other people as lashing out. And even if I know they're not perceiving that accurately, it's still gonna be my fault. I'm still gonna be perceived as the one at fault, and it's gonna be hard for me to shake that perception and shake that guilt. That's a really strong feeling I'm getting with this group that's behind the repression of the King of Wands energy. And I think that's part of why this parental dynamic is coming through with the situation I described earlier, because even if the current situation you're dealing with has nothing to do with your parents, that fear within you may come from the family situation in which you were raised, how you saw your parents interact with each other, how you saw needs get met or not met, dealt with or not dealt with, resisted or shamed when you were a child, whether it was your parents that you saw that from, your siblings, other family members, teachers, adults, peer groups. Those dynamics that you saw in childhood are at play for this group in terms of how you're relating to your own needs and where that pattern of relationship and style of relationship came from. And there's an opportunity here to either clean up a mess that has started to be made with like this wax stripping and the King of Cups and this spillage and the Ace of Cups and the fire and the Five of Wands, the conflict and the Five of Wands, and even this Queen of Cups in this particular card has this somewhat despairing look that isn't necessarily common to every Queen of Cups in every tarot deck. There's an opportunity that this collective has to either prevent that mess from being made in the first place, that waste of energy, that spillage, that energetic leak or draining that's happening from the sort of misapplication or misdirection or misuse of your energy, having it go into trying to keep the peace or suppress rather than into directly addressing what needs to be directly addressed. Or if there's already been a bit of a mess started to be made, you have an opportunity to clean it up and stop it from getting worse. But it means unleashing and trusting those forces within yourself which you have suppressed out of fear that they will actually be the ones to make the mess. There's a misassignment of blame that some of you may be experiencing now or may have experienced in the past, and that's kind of at the root of this dynamic for you, where the blame gets assigned to your unmet needs, to your feelings of anger about the unmet needs, to your feelings in general, to your desires. Those desires get called unreasonable and get called messy and get blamed for the impulsive behavior and the lashing out that actually comes from suppressing those desires and those needs. That's what ends up causing resentment and breeding bitterness and causing those feelings to get expressed in these destructive or reckless behaviors. You cannot unneed a need or unfeel a feeling. Those needs and feelings are always valid, and the ways that they get expressed can be more on the constructive side or more on the destructive side, but it's not any specific feeling, including anger or even hatred, that is destructive. You have every right to hate people who have hurt you and outright suppressed your feelings or shamed you for your needs or shamed you for your feelings or even for your behaviors, especially if those are people who actually had a responsibility or a duty to caretake you. Even if it was not those people, you still have every right to feel anger and feel hatred towards people where there's been this unhealthy or toxic type of dynamic, or just this oppressive, suppressing dynamic. And feeling and expressing those feelings is not going to cause you to live in those feelings. It's suppressing those feelings, repressing those feelings that causes anger and hate to make a home in your heart and nest and fester and, end up attracting metaphorical worms and maggots to that sort of festering and rotting, right? Sorry to get kind of gruesome with the imagery, but I just really want to drive home, these goddess messages are really wanting to drive home the point that if you have experienced that type of feeling before, of like, I feel like this negative feeling that makes me feel terrible has kind of like made a home in me, that's actually because those feelings have not been allowed to flow, and those needs have not been allowed to be expressed, and those desires have not been allowed to be fulfilled. Actually accepting the desires underneath that festering feeling will allow you to clean out the festering and put a stop to it, and purge out the metaphorical infection before you end up getting really sick at heart and sick physically from all the stress. So there's a real reassurance coming through here. This reading is not about, this goddess message is not about blaming you for getting into a mess because you've done the wrong thing. It's about reassuring you that if you actually do face your desires head on and express your feelings directly and firmly and gently and kindly, but still firmly, you actually have a lot more power in this situation than you have been led to think you do. You have a lot more power to get your needs met and get what you want than you've been led to think you do. And that is not going to cause a mess. If a mess has already been made, or if it feels like you're teetering on the edge of that, the way to clean that up or redirect the energies is not by pushing yourself away or shaming yourself or abandoning yourself or neglecting yourself. It's quite the opposite. And that is very firm but gentle and loving, but also very emphatic reassurance from your spirit guides, your goddess guides and angels, and etc., etc. I'm going to see if I can turn on a light here, because I've been using the sunlight from the window and I can see it starting to get dark a little bit faster than I thought it was going to. Let me see if I can address that. I usually prefer to use the ring light to prevent this shadow effect that's happening, but I actually don't have the ability to do that right now. So this is going to have to do for this particular reading, and I apologize for the inconvenience. Let me just fix this. There we go. Okay. Are we drawing more messages from the Astaro Tarot? Okay, we're moving on to a different deck. I'm being drawn to the Energy Oracle cards. That's what that deck looks like. Let's shuffle. I just heard, let's shuffle, baby. The goddesses are getting a little playful now that the initial, more serious message has come through. What else does this group 3 need to hear, goddesses? What else do you have for them? Okay. Action 17. Yes, that's quite a clear confirmation. Yes, take action. Stop holding back. You know, that song, Wild Horses Couldn't Pull Me Away. Stop holding back. You cannot unneed your needs and unfeel your feelings. Stop trying to hold them back. That's causing the damage, or has the potential to cause damage. That's why we have all these reversed energies, because there's so much tension from holding back what you're really feeling. Own your power to express what you're feeling and what you want and what you need in ways that aren't just purely lashing out or trampling with the hooves. Own your power there, but do take action and stop thinking the only way to avoid destruction is to stifle the actions that you wish to take, and stop. Sorry for the harsh way of putting this, but what the goddesses are saying quite clearly in my ear is stop deluding yourself that you're powerless. You have a lot at the end of the day, you are the one with all the power when it comes to either changing how you engage in a situation or walking away from a situation if it becomes unworkable and there's no way for you to meet your needs while staying in that situation. Yes, everyone absolutely has needs that absolutely have to be met in relationship by other people. You will never catch me preaching independence where it's just like, oh, you should just meet all your needs by yourself and just pretend that you're not human. I will never lie to you like that. And when it comes to the power to change your own life, it's all in your hands. So when it comes to how you choose to engage with this situation, own your power rather than shying away from it. It's time to trust yourself. The goddesses are saying it's time to trust yourself to use your own power wisely instead of assuming that you will misuse it and therefore trying to protect yourself and protect your relationships by pretending that you are powerless, by disowning your power or denying your power. You actually can be trusted to take actions that are healthy for you and beneficial for the situation. And the goddesses are being very emphatic about that. And I do want to, again, like before, recognize that there is a gentleness along with the emphaticness. This is not purely a harsh message of like, own up. It's also a deep, gentle undercurrent of reassurance that you can be trusted with this. You can be trusted with yourself, with your own life. You can be trusted to take responsibility for your impact on both yourself and others. And what you want and what you need are not bad or evil or wrong. There's nothing exceptional and unreasonable about what you want to need as opposed to what other people want to need. And you deserve to have those wants and needs and feelings expressed and received and heard and listened to and met with dialogue about, okay, how can we work with this? How can we make things mutually fulfilling in this relationship dynamic? And if that type of dialogue is not what you're met with when you express your needs in a way that isn't destructive and lashing out, then it's okay. It's more than okay to walk away. It's called for at that point. And also a reminder from the goddesses that simply expressing fiery feelings like passion and anger and desire and feeling disrespected, simply expressing those fiery feelings is not in and of itself lashing out or unleashing fire on someone. It's okay to express how much you care about something and how much you care about yourself and to stand up for yourself in a way that is fiery. Yes, it is important to build trust in yourself by showing yourself that you can express that fire and that firmness without feeling like you are completely out of control. But simply feeling fiery feelings does not make you completely out of control. Yes, okay. That just clarified a huge thing for me. That's a huge part of what has been causing fear and shame, as we were talking about earlier for this group, has been the feeling of, if I even touch those feelings and needs and wants inside me, it's going to take over me and I'm going to be out of control and I won't be able to take responsibility for my actions. I won't be able to stop myself from spilling this cup. It's like the fear of this Ace of Cups reversed of, I'm just going to cause damage and wreak destruction, wreak havoc if I just let myself go and let myself feel. So you're being encouraged here to give yourself space to express your feelings uncensored. So this is one of those things that I think is going to be individual depending on your specific situation. For some of you, what's going to help you recognize that just touching those feelings and feeling those feelings is not going to make you out of control is going to be giving yourself space in alone time to journal, to speak out loud, to scream into a pillow, to bring physical cathartic movement into it, and just express your emotions. Just go, I'm going to take this half an hour at home alone to just get things off my chest and hear myself say what it is that I want and what it is that I need and all of that. And then using the information that I learned from that catharsis, then I can put together what I want to express to other people in a way that is maybe more coherent or less explosive. For others of you, and I think how you're going to know if this applies to you is going to be, are you used to being someone who only ever lets yourself express things to people if you have scripted it out and considered all the different ways it could go beforehand? Because if that applies to you, and if you are in a situation where the people that you are planning to approach are not in any way physically dangerous to you, you're not in any sort of, abusive situation, verbally, physically, psychologically, then you're being called in that case to actually just bring your feelings to the table and not censor them, and not feel the need to script yourself and just control yourself so rigidly. And show yourself that it's safe for you to just simply say, hey, can we talk? And just say, I just need to express these feelings. Please don't interrupt me. I do really want to have a dialogue with you, but I just need to get this off my chest first, and just go. And just give yourself, you can even set a timer for yourself if you need to, right? Like, I'm just going to talk for 3 minutes to this person who I know cares about me and wants to hear me, and I'm not going to censor myself, and I'm going to tell them beforehand, like, I just need to get this off my chest, and it might not come out perfectly, and I'm sorry, but I can't. I've been feeling like I'm censoring myself, and in order to get this out and feel better and then work on it, I need to just get it out, like, without thinking so hard about it first. Make it a safe space for yourself and the other person. And if you are in a situation where you're more scared of their reaction, or more scared that you really might say something that you can't take back, that might really cause regrets for you, then yes, you're more on the side of needing to uncork your feelings in a situation where you can just get them out without an audience, and then from what you've kind of dumped out on the table before yourself, then you can kind of go, okay, this is what I'm going to discard and just dump in the trash, and this is what I'm picking out of the pile to actually take with me into a conversation with someone else. And that especially applies if you know that there are feelings coming up in the situation that are actually from the past, from childhood or from an ex, and have nothing to do with the current situation. That's another way that you'll know which way of approaching this situation is what you're being called to specifically, what will work for you. The message is starting to wind down now that guidance has also come out. What other decks are we being called to, goddesses? What else would you like to use to bring through messages? Okay, they're calling me to the Tea Leaf Oracle next. That's what that deck looks like. I do love how these messages never fail to surprise me. I'm shuffling, and I just got this weird specific message about how to shuffle this deck. Okay, you want these 2 cards, Spirit Goddesses? Okay, so we have, this is so funny. Okay, Forest. It's funny because these just came out in another reading I did recently. Forest, muddled, unclear thinking, and Owl, good advice from a wise person. We have the Forest in the action card as well. And we have the Owl, and we have a bird high up by the sun above the clouds in the action card. So we have the sun burning through the mist, burning through the foggy thinking in the action card, and we have the candle in the King of Wands as well, and the rays of light shining down through the murky waters in the Queen of Cups. What I'm getting from this is that when you let yourself go a little bit in terms of that catharsis by yourself, or letting yourself express yourself to the other person in the situation, then it will become very clear what actions to take from there. It's not clear right now because you haven't let yourself just go. Let yourself off the reins, off the leash, to just express and find out what you're feeling from there. You don't have all the data until the feelings are actually uncorked to allow them to pour out of the bottled up state. And then you find out what's actually in the bottle, and you're able to act from there. Similar to how the birds have a bird's eye view. The owl, I am getting the message from the goddesses that is confirmation for some of you who are feeling doubtful to take the advice of this reading, which is a little bit of an unusual message, but that is what I'm getting from the goddesses. Some of you also have people in your life, and it's going to vary for you whether it's people who are in the know of this situation already, or people who are outside of this situation and more at a distance and objective in that way, have more of a bird's eye view in that way. But regardless of whether it's someone who's already in or aware of the situation, or someone who is more distant from it, you do have someone, or possibly more than one person in your life who you can trust with your thoughts and feelings and confusion about the situation, and you can air your feelings out to them. Spirit goddesses, is this different from the person they actually need to bring their feelings up to? I'm getting that it's a different situation for each of you. So for some of you, the very same person that you are, scared to actually bring your true feelings to, actually will have some wisdom and advice and clear thinking to offer, with more kindness than maybe you're expecting, because you're used to these dynamics from the past, like we talked about, from childhood versus current situations, or maybe an ex or ex-friends versus the current situation. So I do think that especially, they're clarifying, that especially applies if you are one of those people that I was just talking about, where you really want to have some catharsis and get some clarity before you approach the other person, because you're not sure what feelings you're having are really about the current situation versus about the past. So for some of you who are dealing with that, just telling the other person that that's what's going on for you is enough, and they will actually be very willing and very able and very on board with helping you parse that out and being included in that process, rather than expecting you to only come to them once you already have everything all figured out. You're actually allowed and encouraged to show up imperfectly to this person and to this relationship, and include them in your process, especially if this is someone where you would be more than willing and able to do the same for them, if you have that trust being built between the two of you, whether it's a friend or a partner or a family member. For others of you, this is telling you to seek out counsel from your therapist or counselor, or from someone like a teacher or mentor or an older sibling or a parent that you trust. Perhaps if the trust is not on that level yet with the person that you are seeking to deal with, or if you're a little bit more concerned that this might be a situation that you're just walking away from, rather than feeling like, no, this is a situation that I really see a lot of hope and healthiness and potential for. If you're feeling like this is a situation where you have been shamed for your needs and your feelings, that's a big clue for you that, and really, like, you can tell you've been shamed, as opposed to someone having said something that really indirectly triggered you, but was not actually about your needs. In a situation where you've been shamed for them, definitely seek out someone who's outside of the situation, or not maybe aware of the situation, but not the person you directly have the conflict or tension with. Okay, I'm getting another tea leaf oracle here. Pineapple, reconciliation. Yeah. So the pineapple has the difficult, prickly matter on the outside to get through, almost like bark, but has the sweetness and the juiciness inside. And that sweet, juicy fruit inside also has juice that contains a ton of enzymes that help us process and digest other food. So if you push through the prickly parts of, I have to feel these uncomfortable, fiery feelings, and I have to express them, and I have to kind of deal with my fear, all the parts of me that are scared to even touch those feelings because they feel they've been burned by them before, when in reality maybe they were burned by other people or by suppressing them before. If I kind of am able to cut through that, I'll be able to get to this dialogue and this connection, this juicy connection that helps me digest and process and actually feel better. So for those of you who are in a situation where you can really trust the other person, that this is confirmation that you will find that talking to them about this, their input and dialogue with them will actually really help you process and digest all the things that you've maybe been putting off, or that have been weighing you down or causing you to hold back. And for those of you where this is a bit of a heavier situation, less healthy, or not feeling so much trust for the other person that you have the conflict with, and you're thinking that maybe you need to protect yourself from them, this is about reconciling with yourself, bringing about reconciliation between the parts of you that have these unmet needs and desires, and the parts of you that have been suppressing those needs and desires out of fear of what happens if they're not suppressed. It's time to validate both sides of that conversation, because those fears are valid and also the needs and desires are valid. And you can absolutely bring about reconciliation, bring about a way for everyone's needs to get met. And it involves hearing out the fears, but then also going, okay, fear, I believe you and I hear you. Do you believe that we're safe enough to maybe hear out the unmet needs and desires and find out what's really going on with them so that we can help them get their needs met too? Do you believe me that maybe actually if we hear them out, we can actually meet those needs in a way that is safe for all of us, all of the parts of myself, when I say all of us, rather than having those needs be met in a way that is destructive to the parts of yourself that are so scared of those needs. And that's a really important ongoing conversation for everyone. I'm going to be honest with you here. Like, that's not something that anyone is exempt from. As a human, we all have needs that we've been conditioned to think are wrong or bad or unreasonable or too much or make us lacking or not enough in some way. And so these types of conversations might make you feel a little crazy at first, but I really want you to know, and the goddesses really want you to know, that this is actually completely normal. And we would have a much better world that was safer for everyone if everyone was having these conversations with themselves and acting from a place of having had these conversations with themselves, these tough conversations that yield these sweet results and yield this processing. And it's not crazy, it's not insane, and it's not something wrong with you that you need to have these conversations. You're not high maintenance. You're normal, and you're doing the work to take care of yourself that everyone really needs. Some people who think they're low maintenance and think you're high maintenance are actually just ignoring their needs. That's coming through really strongly from the goddesses, really strongly. Some people who think you're high maintenance and they're low maintenance actually just have never learned to do any maintenance whatsoever on anyone, themselves or others. And that's not your fault. And there might be some cases where it's not their fault either, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue to settle for that lack of maintenance and lack of care in your relationships. A huge, huge message there. And something to kind of use as a mantra if you're, walking into conversations knowing that you may need to walk away from a relationship and it might be hard. Okay, we have 2 more tea leaves here. Vine, seek out information that will help you. Yes, that's confirmation of what we've been talking about. Seek out the information and the data from your own emotions. Seek out the information from the people you can trust, the therapists, the counselors, the older siblings, the spiritual advisors, whatever it may be. I'm being drawn to the similarity between the vine and the serpents here. I'm getting an image of someone like gently untangling a vine or a snake that's tied itself in a knot. So seek out people who will help you sift through your emotions like untangling a pair of earbuds or a wire, instead of who will see that you are a living thing and seek to keep. If you had a plant that you loved, but you needed it to be untangled from a trellis so that you could move it, you would do your best to keep as much of that plant alive as possible while untangling it. You might have to trim a few things, but you would be trying to keep the plant as healthy as possible while you moved it to a better place for it. So you want to treat yourself in that way and seek out other people who will treat you in that way, where you're untangling yourself with care. And that's the energy you want to bring to these conversations between parts of yourself that are a little scared of each other and a little uncomfortable with each other and maybe want to push each other away. And that's also what you want to keep in mind when you're thinking, who can I trust to be someone I can seek out advice from or vent to, or vent to and have it be productive and not just a complaining session, or someone I can include in this process who would really be mutually beneficial. This is something to think about there. It's kind of the reverse of the 5 of Wands energy, where the 5 of Wands energy is like this conflict where if you lean into that resistance and that conflict further, it's going to make things more tangled up. It's like the opposite, the easing off on the tension, the easing off on the resistance, and the gentle, caring untangling. And like I said, untangling that keeps in mind that the parts of yourself that you're untangling, the feelings, the thoughts, the aspects of yourself, the needs, are living things with feelings. Like these are your feelings, your needs. This is not something to be treated carelessly and just thrown about. You and the people that you trust should have that sense of handling with care. The same way that you would handle a wounded animal, like a pet that you wanted to rescue, a child that you were kind of reteaching a different way of relating to adults after they had been abused, perhaps. And this vine has these little delicate flowers poking off of it. It's like you're gonna transplant the vine in such a way that the flowers will be safe to bloom in all of their delicacy and beauty. We have yoke, feeling tied down or frustrated. Yes, so that is confirmation. Like, how perfect is that with the horses? It's confirmation to take the yoke off the horses. And really, as you're looking at your situation, if you're confused, notice what makes you feel so tied down and frustrated, what feels like a yoke that you just want to be set free from, and use that as like a guiding light to then identify, okay, what can I do to unyoke myself, to liberate myself? What next steps would allow me to feel liberated without reckless impulse chasing that's self-destructive, or just lashing out at someone for the sake of lashing out rather than standing up for yourself. And where are you tying your own wings down? Where are you yoking yourself? And this is where that conversation with yourself between different parts of yourself gets really important. Where are you yoking yourself to something that you know doesn't serve you anymore out of some kind of fear or desperate desire to preserve something that you feel as though you can't live without, you know, a relationship that used to support you but doesn't feel good anymore, a person whose approval feels important to you, but you're realizing you have to be someone other than yourself to get that approval. Working a specific type of 9-to-5 job when you actually are pretty confident that you could earn money in a way that was more fulfilling to yourself, but there's someone who's made you think that it's like a pie in the sky pipe dream to believe in yourself that way and has shaken your confidence. What are the beliefs and the people and the situations that you can actually start to unyoke and untangle yourself from, like removing this vine from that tree? And as you do this, this is where that message from before about owning your power comes back into play in a really deep-rooted, powerful way, because what you discover is that you are actually one of these trees in the forest. You are not in and of yourself as a whole person a vine that needs a trellis or another tree to cling to in order to grow up towards the sun. You have roots, you have a trunk. You are actually capable of standing on your own feet and sourcing your opinion of yourself from your own approval and your own moral compass and your own ethics and your own values and your own passions and desires and needs. You do not need to be yoked to someone else in order to be or feel complete. You do not need someone else's approval to recognize that you are worthy of approval. And you would not collapse without someone else's trunk to grow around. You are a complete tree in and of yourself, equal with all the other trees in the forest. You are not less than. And with this recurring theme of childhood, having those needs and desires and everything made out to be wrong and shamed and suppressed in childhood may have made you feel like you were less than other people and made you seek out, okay, how do I conform myself like a vine around a trunk? How do I conform myself to someone else's expectations and needs and their desires so that I can make sure I have security in a relationship? And that gives me the bravery and the strength and the support and sustenance I need to God and to the world and exist. It's completely normal and valid if that has been the case for you. As children, we absolutely do need that type of support from like a strong, metaphorical tree trunk in order to grow up until we have had the ability to solidify our own tree trunk. And as adults, like I said before, standing on our own does not erase the fact that we still need other people. I don't know if you might already be familiar with like the biology of trees in a forest, but trees in a forest actually like send each other nutrients and messages through their roots and through the mushroom networks, the mycelium networks that connect their roots to each other. They're dependent on each other and on other organisms that aren't trees. They're almost like one big interdependent, interconnected organism, and at the same time each tree has its own trunk that holds it up, its own roots that hold it up. Each one has an ability to pull water and nutrients from the soil itself, and does not need necessarily to lean on another tree to be whole. And that doesn't diminish that trees absolutely do reach out to each other and send nutrients to each other when they can sense that another tree has been injured by like a cut from an axe or a collision from a car or whatever the case may be. Nutrient deficiency in the soil in one area gets compensated by trees from another area. All these sorts of things. You do not have to cut off from your needs for other people completely in order to unyoke yourself and free yourself and stand up as an independent solid trunk, and stand up as an equal to the other trees in the forest. You get to have the best of both worlds. You deserve it. It is your birthright. It is your nature as a tree in the forest, as a human among humans. It is actually your nature. And people may have presented themselves to you in a way that made you think that you were the only one with this set of needs, and this need to be independent and free and liberated, but also this need for other people. Sometimes being in certain relationship dynamics, toxic dynamics, will teach you that you're the weird one, the odd one out, when you are actually simply expressing not only normal but universal human needs and desires. So this reading, these goddesses are here to tell you that, and are incredibly grateful, actually profoundly grateful for you sticking around to listen to these messages, because so many people spend their whole lives chaining themselves, yoking themselves to someone who doesn't have their best interests at heart, to workplaces that would replace them in a second if they ever had something happen to them, to belief patterns and paradigms and worldviews that limit them and choke them. So the goddesses are profoundly grateful that you are actually considering setting yourself free, like these horses, like these birds with their wings. And it's more than time for you to do that, and it's more than okay for you to do that. It is right, profoundly right, in a way that no one else can ever take away from you. It's an inalienable right for you to do that. And someone else telling you that they think it's not right, that they think it's a fact that it's not right, doesn't actually change that it is right. And the goddesses really want you to know that, and really want to be here for you to help nourish you with the sustenance of the belief, like that growing solidity of the trunk here is representing, among other things, the growing solidity of your belief of, like, actually, I know deep within myself that this is right for me, no matter what person X, person Y, or person Z says. Their opinions are not necessarily an accurate reflection of me, and I can actually choose to perceive myself in a different way than what they are reflecting to me as me. And I can actually trust, when I've spent time with my feelings and experienced this catharsis and seen what pours out when I just uncork the fizzy bottle of my emotions, when I've actually looked at these things and sifted through them, whether by myself or with another person, I can actually trust myself that I am actually seeing myself more clearly than they are seeing me, and that my opinion of myself matters more than their opinion of me. And that's such a profound revelation that can set your course for your entire life on a path that is right and true for you, instead of keeping you chained in a cage and not on that path for the rest of your life. So thank you so much for tuning in, Group 3. The goddesses are telling me that this message is complete, and again reiterating that they and we are so thankful to you for being willing to hear this and act on it. So thank you so much for being here. Feel free to comment to let me know how this has resonated with you, and like and subscribe if it has helped you and you're interested in more messages like this. Thank you so much again for being here. And just a quick note as well, I have, just as of a couple of days ago, made my website live. You can find a link to that in my description box and in my bio. Just wanting to note that it's completely unrelated to the reading, just because it's new, and I don't want people to miss it if they have been wondering if I offer personal readings. So thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or week, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.